Okay, let us consider the forwarding picture, the diagrams, the patterns before you. Basically, this is a natal birth chart in the middle. Two reasons. Inside the natal birth chart that you're looking at shows, first of all, the sun rising, sunrise, rising in the east, setting in the west. 3 different points. Here it is rising in winter. Here it is rising at the equinox and solstice points in the spring and autumn. And here it is rising in the summertime when it's the highest point, where it saves the most sunlight, which is summer. Also, it shows a daily rotation of the moon, of the sun. It shows a daily rotation of the sun as it stays in winter. Now, in winter, it rises and settings, or sets. It rises and sets from the east at the shortest rung, so that's why winter is the days don't last long, because it's on a low rung and the sun doesn't stay high in the sky. It stays low in the sky, in fact, for these months. It starts at fall in Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius. And then winter, spring here is Pisces. And then here's spring. So it really doesn't start getting hot until where you meet the solstices and equinox points, which is spring and autumn. Spring going in from winter into spring, and then autumn going from summer into autumn. Okay, and then summer is your highest point. Okay, so let's see what else we can see in this chart. I've discovered that the sun, this chart right here is, we're trying to make a three-dimensional pattern out of it, but it's on a flat two-dimensional surface. But if this was to tilt sideways, it would be 23.5 degrees to the celestial equator, which is also 23.5 degrees. And later you'll see how this plane that we're on tilts towards to the right, as if you were sitting on a hill. Okay, another factor that I've realized or noticed is that, and it took me a long time to get this, is that sunrise, as the signs or the signs of the zodiac rise in the east from left to right, rises in the east, left to right, just like the clock turns from left to right, the planets also rise in the east, but in the opposite direction from what we're seeing. This opposite direction is mainly because the sun is so bright in showing the sign that it's in, it always reflected to the sign that we can see on the opposite side of where the sun is brightest. Now, if the sun is shining say in Pisces, you're not going to see Pisces, you'll see Virgo. If the sun is shining in Aries in the springtime, you're going to see its opposite sign, which indicates Libra. And so that's why the sun, the planets, all planets rise from the right to the left, from the right side to the left side, going in a circular pattern, opposite that of time, clock time. Clock time goes from left to right. The planets move from right to left, and the signs move from right to left, from left to right. So you see a similarity here? Sure. You'll see the signs operate as the clocks do. It's time. That's why the east part, in the east, it is 6 a.m. at sunrise. 5 something. It varies when the sun rises. But here it is, rising from the east and setting in the west. The clocks go around with the various times in 12 hours, 24 hours in a day. 6 hours at the top, 6 hours at the bottom. Day and night. This is what's important. As the signs, as the planets go around from left to right, the signs go from right to left. And as they come around in their seasons, as the planets in their cycles, Sun has its own cycle, Mercury has a cycle, Venus has a cycle, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and also asteroids. When you get into those, you'll notice that they all travel from left to right, and the signs move up and around through the signs in degrees, minutes, and seconds. So there's a lot in this picture that you're seeing. Planets rise, set counterclockwise to the signs. If you look at the compass, you'll see west, where east would be on this side of east. North is always straight up and down. Although when you do get a clock, you'll get it with the axis tilting as if the planet or the plane of the equator is tilted on the celestial, connected to the celestial sphere. It is tilted at the angle of whatever sunlight or season it is in. So there's never ever, there's always different planes or horizons. There's always different horizons. And actually you can see, if you look out your window or your front door or your side door, your windows in your house, the east is pointing at a certain angle that is not always the same to someone else. Someone across the street wouldn't say east the same way you're seeing it. So east is different depending on your perspective on where east is and how that setting is in your local area. And throughout the world, the sun, the solar sun in the solar system, the real Jesus Christ, the sun, is never sets. It always rises, because it's always rising in a different horizon plane. But it never moves. It's the earth, our platform, and our horizons, where we are on earth, that's actually moving. The sun never moves. it's our perspective here on terra firma that we are observing, that how the planets are moving, because we're pivoting around through the seasons. And the zodiac signs have nothing to do with the constellations. Constellations change from every 26,000 years. Now that's a different angle. Even the constellations are star patterns. You know, they're not even what you think they are. They're just a bunch of stars that people made visualizations out to chart out some space and time and space. You can make those figures anything you really want. There's a consistency of what patterns will help you find if you're into astronomy, but constellations aren't really. It's only where we see these signs appearing in the background from our parallax on Earth. How we see through from the planet Earth into space, through space, and how we seeing the stars take shape. And this is how we get a perspective in consciousness, and how we as humans develop our concepts. But when you really consider everything, and there was nothing else was around at the time of the beginning, what would you look towards? What would you be fascinated with? The sun, moon, and stars, and nature. This is how we gain consciousness as we evolve to tell a story. No one stays around generation after generation. The sun outlasts every age and keeps going into different ages at different times. 4.56 billion years. Let's see if you have a lot of money that equals 4.6 billion years. That's how old we think this existence is. And the sun keeps going around. Who says that's not Jesus? We in our pea-brain thoughts can only conceive what our consciousness allows us to. And when we become more aware of ourselves, we become more aware of something greater. So how can you comprehend anything when you can't comprehend yourself? So that's why these graphics, these complex concepts are developed, because it goes straight up and straight down. There is no hell, there's no purgatory, and there's no heaven. The only heaven that you see is where the stars are. And that's all around. We're a planet in the middle of a bunch of stars going around us. Where's hell? It's nowhere. It's in your mind. It's in your consciousness. God created the planets and the signs. The Mazzaroth in the Bible and Job or whatever tells a story of the constellations. But these are God's signposts. And we rendition God to our own image, saying that that's God, that's Jesus, that's whoever. And people that don't think follow it. Right off a cliff. But the idea is that God and the ancients created a reflection of God's space, heavens, here on earth, with the pyramids, designed them, reflecting them just like they are in space. And so that to me is closer to God and knowledge of God than some of these religions just pulling in money. It's a money game. Pimp pastors and preachers pimping the people for money, like as if we have to prove and pay our way into heaven. We're being pimped because we ain't using our brains. You have to look at what's apparent, what's here, what's been here, what will continue to be here. And then we have to see how that reflects us, because we are too part of nature.